Hello everyone, I'm so happy that you joined me today. I will tell you a little about what minimum we need to start developing SharePoint Framework. But before we will get started with that webinar, let me introduce myself. My name is Tomasz Głogosz and I'm working in Datapolis as a project manager. I worked a lot of years in IT with document management system, intranets, extranets, and mainly SharePoint and third-party tools. However, today I will not tell you about my experience in SharePoint, but I will tell you what's the future of the SharePoint, about the SharePoint framework, as you know. So let's go to agenda. I will tell you about what you need to start developing SharePoint framework in 3 points. The first point, for those people who do not yet exactly know what is SharePoint framework, I will tell you the basics about that. Then I will do some demonstration about what minimum you need to start developing. So I will tell you how to prepare environment, how to write your code, how to create a project, how to debug it, and how to publish it. And then at last, I will tell you what you should do next to get to know more about SharePoint framework. So let's start. What is SharePoint framework? As most of you probably know, it's a page Webpart model with a full support for client-side SharePoint development. So it's basically a new way to create a Webpart. It's easy to integrate with SharePoint and have support for open source tooling. Yeah, what are the key features of the SharePoint framework? The most important is that it runs in the context of the current user. So we don't have more iframes. We have a webpart that is put inside the DOM. So the controls of that are rendered inside the DOM and it runs with the whole page. Yeah, the controls are responsive and accessible by the nature, and developers are allowed to attach to some basic events of the page lifecycle. And one of my favorite things is framework agnostic, so you don't need to do some JavaScript framework. You can do it whatever you want. And the toolchain is based on common open source tools, so basically you can use any tool you need and do not pay for that because that tools are for free and open. The performance is very nice because it runs in the context of the current page, so it does not need to connect once more and check permissions, etc. in SharePoint, so it runs as the current user in the current DOM. And lastly, it can be used on all sites and all pages. There's no limits. So where to use that? Like I said just a second before, you can use it on the old pages and modern sites, wherever you want. And when you would like to create a webpart that connects to SharePoint, it's good to use the SharePoint framework. When you would like the mobile user experience, of course, the SharePoint framework is the best because it supports a good user experience on the mobiles. But when it's not the best to use the SharePoint framework, you need to know that. When you would like to have elevated privileges, so for example, when you code need to access some things that your current user are not allowed to, it's not possible just using the only SharePoint framework to manage that. You need to do some hybrid with probably some add-in. When you would like to create some long-running operation, it's not a good way to make it in JavaScript. You should do some hybrid with, for example, Azure Web Job. And when you would like to have immediate privileges, so your webpart shouldn't have access to everything the user has, so then you need to maybe do some code reviews or just make a hybrid or just use instead of that webpart use an add-in, the old known iframe. And when you have very sensitive information in your webparts, probably there's not good to use SharePoint framework because it's running the page in the current page context. So the other web parts can access those web part data. So if you have some sensitive information which shouldn't be lost and shouldn't be available for the web parts, you probably should use the add-in with an iframe, the old way, but it's still available and it's still possible to use. So let's go further. How it works, the web part. When you create a web part in SharePoint Framework, you mainly, as the output, create two things. The first thing is SPAPP file, and the other thing is JavaScript. The SPAPP file is definition of the web parts, and the JavaScript is the output of the web part, its content. So the SPAPP file, when it's created, when you create that web part, should be put in the app catalog, should be uploaded to app catalog. And then whenever you want to use your web part, you need to go to website and just choose add the web part app, because it will be available then when you upload it to app catalog. And then you can use your web part on that website. JavaScripts you need to put on the some CDN. You can of course put it whatever you want, so you can also put it inside SharePoint, but it's not a good idea because of performance reasons. So the best will be if you put it on some external CDN and the JavaScript will be downloaded from there. So when you upload it, when you would like to use, how it looks like. On the old websites, it looks like it looked before. So you have just insert one web part. You can choose the web part, just click insert and it's there. Nothing changed on the old websites. But in the new websites, it's very nice because there is some plus button when you can see your available web parts. You just click a web part. It's very easy, very quick to use, and then just click on the web part and it is there. Yeah, you just can click the button to edit it and you will show the properties. We will check that later. Okay, so what tools you need to know and what tools you need to use when you develop SharePoint Framework. Okay, just kidding, you don't need to use all of that tools. However, you may use all of the tools, but basically the most important are those on the left are tools that you need to install and at least get to know in 5 minutes about them, some basics. And the tools on the right are the languages, the programming languages on the right are the things you need to know and deeply learn to create a great web part. So let's start from the left. What's Node.js? Node.js is a JavaScript runtime environment that allows you, for example, to run JavaScripts on the server platform. Why we need that? For example, for serving the web part locally and to testing it. The NPM is the Node package manager, which allows you to download packages. It comes with the Node.js and easily allows you to download every package you need for the development. So the next is Yeoman. What is Yeoman? Yeoman is basically a scaffolding tool. It's a kind of template manager when you can have some templates and just choose which template you would like to use to create a new project. And then create that project. It's some kind of, like in the old way in Visual Studio, you just click new project and you have templates. The Gulp is a build tool. The Gulp helps you build your project, build your JavaScripts to make it change like you need. For example, minified, the files are put in the right places, and merged, etc. And last, Visual Studio Code. It's just editor you may use any editor you would like. It's not meant to be Visual Studio. It can be any other editor like WebStorm or Atom. What you need. It's just up to you. On the other side, you have, like I said, the programming languages. Probably you know what is JavaScript and HTML, so you need to know that to develop in the SharePoint Framework. But you need to learn and to really get known about the TypeScript, because SharePoint Framework is based on TypeScript. What is TypeScript? TypeScript is a programming language based on JavaScript. It's built on top of JavaScript and fully supports object model and other stuff which supports regular nice project languages like C#, for example. So it's very good to get to know. It's easy then when you use it to debug it, to manage code. It's very powerful and make you work more efficient. Okay. So when we know some basics, let's go to the dev part of my webinar. When I will tell you basics about developing, I will show you the basics about developing web parts in the SharePoint framework. I will tell you how to prepare environment, both local on your computer and online. I will tell you how to create web part, the new, to develop it, to test it local and online, and to debug it. Then I will tell you some basics about the publishing, which parts of the web part and how to make it published. And then I will tell you some tips and tricks about connection with SharePoint. So let's start with preparing environment, the local and the online. Firstly, let me open the browser and start with downloading Node.js. We will go to the Node.js org page, and here is the version which you can download and install on your PC. Remember that my demo is based on Windows, so for other systems you need to check on the SharePoint Framework website what exactly you need to install. We'll work on the Node.js in that version 6.9.4. You need to download this to start working. I downloaded this before install. The installation is very simple, just next, nothing more. And then we have installed the Node.js with the npm, Node Package Manager. So right now I will open the command line. I'm using the commander, but you can use any command line you would like, also the built-in Windows command line. And right now, the first thing which you need to do after installing the Node.js, you need to verify the version you have if you had it before, for example. So it's good to run that script npm install -g npm version 3. So let's go on. The version that -g and that it's installed globally, and verify globally that you have the right version installed for every project you work with. It may take a while to install it, so be patient. After it will install, we will go to the next steps of the installation. Okay, it's installed right now. So right now I will install the next applications we need. It will be human. So let's go npm install -g, so also globally as human. So it will download that and install the human in my system. So it also may take a while to download it from the npm servers and to install that in my local environment. Okay, great, it installed right now. So we have Yaman in my system, and the next step, if I install Yaman, will be installing the gulp. You remember what was gulp? npm install -g gulp. The gulp is a build system, and the Yaman is a scaffolding tool, as I told you before. So right now we are installing the gulp, the build system, which we'll need for SharePoint framework to build your web parts, to make its packs. Okay, so it's installed. It was quick. There is two step more that we need to install. So npm install -g production Windows build tools. Okay, it's installing. What is Windows build tools? Windows build tools are tools that are needed for your web parts to be properly built. Yeah, it's some internal stuff provided by Microsoft that will help us build our web parts. Okay, it's installing it right now. Just give it a second again. And the last step is install of SharePoint scaffold, SharePoint Framework Webpart scaffold for the humans. So we need to write npm install -g Microsoft generator SharePoint. Let's go. Downloading the generator, downloading the scaffold for the web part, which we later will use in the Yeoman to create a web part project. Very easy, just running the Yeoman and choosing the project properties, which will create a very great web part and with some predefined properties and classes and data. Okay, we have installed the SharePoint Framework scaffold for web part. The next step is to have some editor. I have Visual Studio, so I have downloaded it before, but you can download any editor you would like, but it's nice to have some. Okay, so let's assume that we have some editor, and the next step, like I told you before, will be creating an environment on the online part. So first step, we need to have a tenant. If you don't have a tenant, you can go to dev office.com dev program, yeah, and here you can join and have a free developer tenant. I have such tenant, so I'll just go to administration part of my tenant. Yeah, it's that one. Yeah, login. And here I will create a new dev site. So I will create a new profile site collection just to have a developer site. Yeah, let's have an English language. Developer site, I need to choose the developer site to develop it. It will be the best way. The title, let's say, dev site. Dev site. Okay, administrator me. Okay, so let's create it. The dev site is being created right now, and the other thing you need on your tenant is app catalog. I have created my app catalog before, so I have one. But if you do not have an app catalog on your tenant, you need to create it because you need to have a place to upload your apps to be available for the whole tenant. So we have prepared an environment, both local and online. So we can go right now to the creating web part, where I will tell you more about how to create web part, how to develop it, how to test it local and online, and how to debug it. Okay, so let's start. Let's create a new folder for our project. Let's name it Hello World. Hello World, okay. Let's enter Hello World. And let's create from the scaffold a new web part in the Hello World. So it will be Yo as the human, Microsoft, SharePoint. Yeah, let's name our solution Hello World. Okay. Let's use the current folder. Webpart name, yes, let's stay with that. The description, this is my first web part. Okay. And we now can choose the JavaScript framework on which it's based. Like I told you before, we don't have to. So I will choose no JavaScript framework. Okay. And the web part right now is creating a new, we will have a new web part project right now. It can take a while, so we need to wait because there is a lot of files creating. It's attached libraries to our project. It creates every file, so as the output of that process in the Yeoman will be a new project that works, that can be tested, and there is a web part. Okay, we have our web part that now created by the Yeoman, so we can open it in some code editor. I will just put code dot to open that in Visual Studio Code. So let's wait it's opening, and then I will tell you what it's created. So we have right now, it's opened in Visual Studio Code, and the important things are the source folder, where the web parts, and the most important for you at the beginning of your way of learning SharePoint Framework is that there is a file. There's three files. There is a JSON file, there is a TypeScript file, and there is a Webpart props file. It basically the three files are the main files of your new Webpart, which is called here. The Hello Webpart TypeScript file is the file created in TypeScript, which is the main source file of Webpart. And there's several important things. At the beginning of the file, there's some kind of imports. So that imports external libraries, which can be interesting for you. And the next part is the default class Hello World Webpart, which extends base client side Webpart class. So that basically that class is the main class for Webparts, and you need to implement that class to extend it in TypeScript to have your Webpart. And there is two methods. The first method is render, which this method just creates is running when Webpart is rendered, and it's just is for creating its HTML. So, for example, you can just use this DOM element inner HTML to create your web part. And the second method is get property pane settings, which is basically returns how should look like a property pane with properties for your web parts. The next thing is the manifest.json file, which basically is a file that defines your web parts. There is a title of the web part, the group of the web part, and the properties of the web part, the definition of the properties. And the one other file is Webpart props, when you put your properties as hello webpart props is a parameter of the extended class, which are definition of your properties. Okay, so that's all basically about the classes. So basically, when you need to start developing, you just go to the file hello webpart.s or the name of the web part you just created, and you change that that method. Okay, so right now we have a file, we have a created web part, and we would like to test it. So what to do? Firstly, you need to come back to your command line and write gulp trust dev cert. What does it do? It just for the beginning of developing, it's installing a new certificate in your system just for having it for you testing your web part for HTTPS connection to your web part, because without that you may have problems with testing your web part. So we have now installed the new certificate in your system, and we just run method gulp serve. What does it mean? Gulp, like I told you, is the build manager, so it's prepared the tasks. So we run prepared task, and the serve is a task which is prepared in the Hello World web part, which just opens which just runs a server with the test page and opens your web part in the test page. So let's run gulp serve. It's starting gulp is starting a task, and it will right now open a browser with a test page. Yeah, it's loaded a test page, so we can just right now add the web part. What is that test page? It is called Workbench. It is a special prepared test page for working with the SharePoint framework, and it allows you to test the SharePoint framework web part locally and on the SharePoint Online, which I will show you in a minute. So let's add the web part. You see there's a web part, hello world, so we'll add that. And you can see that we can just click here and go to properties. I can just write some properties, description, 1, 2, 3. And you see dynamically loads it here. So we can come back to code. Code is here. And let's update something. Welcome to SharePoint on my webinar. Okay. Let's go back to this. Refresh the page. That page refreshed automatically, and we have welcome to SharePoint on my webinar. You see, it's dynamically load the things you just write. So we have tested it just right now on the SharePoint locally, on the Workbench locally. So it's not the SharePoint, it's the Workbench which imitates SharePoint. And right now we can go to our created dev site, and we can check how it looks like in the SharePoint. So I need to write my address to my page. Yeah, it's that one. Sites, I have created a page dev site. Let's open that. It's a dev site, okay. And right now we'll open layouts, workbench, ASPX, yeah. Yeah, you can see we are right now in the SharePoint, and yeah, it's my Webpart here. Welcome to SharePoint on my webinar. So you can test it locally, just without connection to internet, and you can test it to SharePoint Online the same way, just opening a prepared page on the dev side, the SharePoint Workbench page, when you are allowed to test your Webpart online. Okay, so we know how to test it, we know how to change something, so let's go to the debug part. What we need to the debug? Firstly, we need some plugin because we will debug that in the Chrome browser. So we need to download. I will show you where you can find that plugin for testing. My Marketplace, Visual Studio, yeah, .com, and it's here, yeah, debugger for Chrome. It's a plugin for Visual Studio that allows you to debug TypeScript in the Chrome. So we can just writing that in our Visual Studio. Ctrl-Shift-P. I will write which I copied, and I will install the debugger for Chrome. Yeah, just remove that. Okay. Debugger for Chrome, install. Yeah, so it's installing right now a debugger for Chrome, which will allow us to debug our SharePoint Framework Webpart inside Chrome. It's very nice because it will be available to debug that in the TypeScript, not in the JavaScript, but in the TypeScript. Okay, it's installed right now, so we can go back to our solution, to our project. Let's click debug. Then you need to click the green button here. It will start debugging. However, for the first time, we need to choose the configuration. So we choose the Chrome configuration, and that created a new file. I will come back to our sources. It is that folder, the launch JSON file, which describes the configuration of the debugger. So in the configuration, I have two available configuration. Those configuration will be visible then here. So I have launch against localhost with source maps, and I have attached to Chrome by default. So that names are here and here. And I also have one thing important, that's URL. So that URL is here in the launch Chrome against localhost, which will open localhost. And also I can have other configuration options like source maps. What is source map? Source maps is mapping of the JavaScripts that allow you to map the minified code to the code that is not minified. So you'll be able, if your project minify your code in the output, so that is something that runs in the browser, you will be able to debug the code that is not minified. So in the Visual Studio, you will see the code that you wrote. So in my example, I have prepared a file with proprietary configuration for the web part. So let me update that file. I have two configurations: launch localhost with source maps and launch remote with source maps. Let me update this one, dev site. So the first one is to launch locally and to debug it locally. One thing I changed is source map override. So I put where are source maps in that web part project, and of course the URL, which is URL by default where it loads that web part. It's localhost, the port 5321 by default. That is where that it loads. In that place it loads a web part. Okay, so let's choose the configuration, launch localhost with source maps. I will close, before that, I will close my Chrome. So it will be to reload and to attach. And let's go on. I just clicked and it's opening the Chrome. Let me add my web part. I have added web part, so it's here. Can click configuration, yeah. 1, 2, 3, it's working. So let's come back to the code. Yeah, to the code, here my web part. And let's attach here a breakpoint in the render method. So let's come back to the debug here and refresh the page. You can see right now we are paused in Visual Studio Code, so let's go to Visual Studio. You see there our breakpoint, it stands here on the DOM element in HTML, so let's go over that. And we see that it's updated that part of the code, so of the inner HTML. So let's continue, come back to the Chrome, and we see our web part here again. So if breakpoint works, we can check the code, we can debug it. Okay, so let's go to the next debugging. Let's check how it works in our Office 365 in our SharePoint line. So we close that. Let's go to debug. Let's go to other configuration, remote with source maps, and start debugging. Yeah, let me log in. Plus, yeah, you see, great, we are in SharePoint Online and we can debug our script. Let's check that. Again, we are breakpoint here, so let me refresh the page. Yeah, and we stay on our breakpoint. We see what is inside, we can check that. So let's continue. Come back to our Chrome and it works, it loads, so everything works okay. So let's summarize. We have now created new web part, we check how to develop it, we tested it locally and online, and we debug it. So that's now the time to go to the next step to publish a web part, to get now how to publish it to SharePoint and get some information about publishing the code to CDN. As I mentioned before, publishing splits into two parts, the publishing SPAPP file and publishing JavaScripts. So let's stop debugging, go to code. Yeah, and there is a package solution file in the config, and that file describes where is our SPAPP file. Probably you will not need to change anything here, just to notice where is the Hello World SPAPP file in the output when we build our solution. This is the solution folder Hello World SPAPP. This is one important thing. The other important thing is just right here in the dist folder, in the manifest.json file. The dist folder is the folder when your JavaScript, you build the JavaScript runs. So this is output of the JavaScript. And here we have a JSON file where one important thing is that one, internal module base URLs. That describes where exactly are the JavaScripts of your web part. Right now, we will publish our SPAP file to the SharePoint, and we will start using our web parts in the SharePoint. However, we will still use JavaScript that are locally on the local host 4321 folder, as I mentioned before, the standard folder where it is tested. So let's go on. What we need to prepare our SPAP file is very easy. You just need to run gulp. I will open one more window of the commander, and in that commander I will run gulp package. I'm sorry, not here. Let's go to change directory, SharePoint Framework, hello Webpart, yeah, and gulp package solution. Okay, it has built a solution, so we can go right now to the SharePoint folder, Hello World, and here in the SharePoint solution we have our SPAP file. So what we need to do right now is that file. Let's go to our SharePoint. So I will open the browser. Datapolis, SharePoint.com, my sites, dev site. Yeah, that's my site. However, firstly I will open our administration, and on administration I will upload to our catalog, to app catalog that SPAP file. I will open right now app catalog. Yeah, apps for SharePoint, and let's upload my app. Yeah. SharePoint solution forward app. Okay. Yeah, deploy. Okay, so let's go to our dev site and add an app. Yeah, add an app from organization. Hello World client site solution. Okay, let's go. We are adding that app. Yeah, we need to wait a second till it's added. So let's refresh the page. Okay, our app is added right now. So let's go to the pages and add the page. First, we will add an old-fashioned style page, and we will add a web part to that page, and then we will add a new page, a modern page, and check it out again. Okay, so let's add a site page, the web part page, of course, the old one. Okay, test page. Great. So let's add a web part. Yeah, it's here. Great. Hello world. So click add. Yeah, fantastic. It's working. We have a web part on our page. We can check its properties. So let's go to edit web part. Configure. And we can just write. You see, it's updated here. So great, it's working. Everything is working again. Okay. So close this. We have a web part. And let's go to site pages again. Site contents. Pages. And let's add a modern page. Site page. We have a plus here. It's easy here to add a web part. So I'm adding the web part. Yeah, here is our web part. Great, it's added. So let's configure it. Hello world. Test. Again. Fantastic. We added a web part. Everything is working right now. Let's come back to Visual Studio. The last part I would like to tell about publishing web parts is publishing a code to the CDN. You can do it two ways. You can publish your code to the any CDN you would like, or you can publish your code to the Azure storage if you have some. Let's start with publishing a code to any CDN you would like. It's very simple. You need just to open the gulp and just write gulp ship. it will prepare your code, the release version of your code, and it will store it in the temp folder, temp deploy folder. So let's open that folder, temp deploy, and that's your code prepared to be put on the on some CDN. You need just to upload that code and do the CDN. You can also prepare a special file to put it on the Azure storage if you have some Azure storage. It will also get the code from the temp deploy, and it will put on the Azure storage you have. So you need to account, container, and access key. And it is also simple. Then you will need to write just gulp, and then you will need to write deploy Azure storage, and that will deploy to the interesting Azure which is configured right here. Okay, so let's imagine that we have our code, we know where it is, so then we need to prepare also the our manifest.json file, yeah, which will be put in the spapp file with the right URL, because right here we have the URL that is for the test. So what we need to do? First, we do not change that file. It will be changed automatically because we will just use the right manifest.json file. And here we need to write the exact place on the CDN where our file is, where we took the files from the temp deploy folder. So where we took that files from here, and we need to put that URL here. And then we need to prepare a package. If it's written here, it will be very simple. Let me write here my URL. For example, it may be http datapolis.com hello world. Okay, and then we need just to go to the gulp again and write gulp bundle ship. It's already needed, but probably that bundle in the framework version will be not needed. So let's write the gulp bundle ship. And the gulp package solution ship. And that will prepare a new solution just right here in the solution folder. It will be hello world spapp, the new version, which is already containing the new URL, and when we upload that to the SharePoint, it will use the exact URL you just provided in the right manifest.json file. So let's go right now to the last point of my dev demonstration, the part with some basic tips and tricks with connection with SharePoint. There's two main questions I would like to answer you. The first question is how to get some information about where we are running right now, so about the context, and the other question is how to connect with SharePoint, how to get data. I have prepared for that the other project, so I will close this right now. Let me stop this. Yeah. And let's open the other project. This is the connection example code dot. Okay, that project is based on some basic example that you were able to find on Microsoft Framework, SharePoint Framework page. And what we have right here, this is a webpart that will show you the list of the lists, SharePoint lists that are available on the current page, of the current website, exactly. Okay, so how we can get some information where we are right now. You see there is a render method, and in the render method, of course, everywhere you would like, you can use, for example, this context. What is this context? Page context. There is a built-in property that will allow you to get some basic information about where we are running, what is the site exactly, what is the page, what is the current user, the item, the culture info. So the basic information that will allow you to find where we are running right now. Okay, so we know where we are running. So then we would like to connect with SharePoint. There's a code example, but I will not give you the whole information about that. I will give you some basic information how to just connect. Yeah. So there is a question. Okay, we can think about connection to SharePoint, but what to do if we are running a webpart in our local workbench? So there is no SharePoint. There is no problem because there is some kind of environment type, and you can get information about where you're running. Is that a local? So you have a local workbench instance, or SharePoint or classic SharePoint. So you exactly know where you're running. And connection to SharePoint, just HTTP connection to the SharePoint API, so you can get on the SharePoint Framework dev site information about the API. So, for example, web list and list a filter of the list. So you'll be able to get every list. So what to do if you are not connected to SharePoint, you're only in the local environment? You just need to mock data. So you need to prepare what returns SharePoint for that. So it's simple. You just check which environment you have, and you run the mock or the real list data. That's very easy. So let's show how it works. Okay, so gulp serve. Okay, our workbench opened. So let's add the web part. And you see there's mock lists. Let's go to the code. And that will be in the second file. Yeah, there's our mock list. So it is. Okay, so let's check how it will look like on the SharePoint. So let's open our dev site. And workbench. Okay, let me add Webpart, SP content. Yes, SP Connect, we will see a list that are on SharePoint. So the same Webpart running the same way, the same scripts loaded in the different contexts. Here loads SharePoint and there loads mock data. So that's all with the demonstration. And right now I'd like to tell you at the end of my webinar what you may do next if you would like to get to know more about SharePoint Framework. Firstly, I strongly advise you to learn TypeScript. It's very important to know TypeScript because it will make your work very easy with SharePoint Framework. The next steps is, of course, find some examples and more information on the SharePoint Framework on DevOffice.com and on GitHub. One thing is to notice when I was just preparing for that webinar in the last days, Microsoft published the release candidate of the SharePoint Framework. So we are on the road to have the final version which will be available in production. And when you will get to know about SharePoint Framework, it's nice to get to know about the Office UI Fabric React, the new version of Office UI Fabric, which will allow you to create a nice user experiences for your framework, SharePoint Framework web parts that will be same as another user experience in the Office 365. The last steps are two frameworks that are supported by the SharePoint framework, the React and the Knockout. And it's nice to get to know with them. Maybe one of them will speed up your work. Okay, So at this point, I would like to thank you very much for listening. I hope that webinar open your way to using SharePoint Framework and make it easy to start with that. So it will be not so hard, and you will be able to quickly create your first web parts. So thank you very much. And if you have some questions, you can ask them right now.